I learned the truth on a quiet afternoon, holding a document that was never meant for me. It was not dramatic. There was no confrontation, no raised voices. Just a signature that did not belong where it was, and a date that arrived too early. From that moment on, I understood that patience would matter more than anger. My mother died when I was 14. Not suddenly, but quietly, the way a life slips away after a long illness that exhausts everyone involved. By the end, grief did not arrive as a storm. It arrived as fatigue. The house became still, orderly, almost respectful of the absence it now held. People told me I was strong. What they meant was that I did not cry in public. My father withdrew immediately. He was never cruel, never loud, never obviously negligent. He simply stopped noticing things that required effort. Meals appeared less often. Conversations shortened. Decisions were deferred. He became someone who needed guidance and was grateful to whoever offered it. That person was Elaine. She entered our lives less than a year after my mother's funeral. She wore soft colors, spoke carefully, and never overstepped in obvious ways. She brought casseroles, organized paperwork, reminded my father of appointments. She told people she was helping him survive. She was admired. Friends praised her grace. Family thanked her for saving my father. At school events, teachers smiled when she introduced herself as my stepmother, as if the word itself confirmed stability. At home, she was efficient. She did not ask how I was feeling. She asked whether I had finished my homework. She did not insult me. She simply excluded me from relevance. My father noticed none of this. Or perhaps he noticed and found it easier not to question it. Elaine handled finances soon after the wedding. She said my father needed rest, and money stressed him. He agreed immediately. I remember him signing documents at the dining table while she stood beside him, correcting him gently when he hesitated. I was 17 then. Old enough to see patterns, young enough to be ignored. What Elaine did best was appear reasonable. If I questioned something, she smiled patiently and explained it away. If I persisted, she expressed concern about my emotional state. My father would place a hand on my shoulder and ask me not to make things difficult. So I stopped asking. The first discovery came by accident. I was home from university during my second year, looking for an old photo album. Elaine kept everything meticulously organized. Labeled folders, categorized drawers. In the back of a filing cabinet, behind tax records and insurance statements, I found a thin envelope addressed in my mother's handwriting. It was not sealed. Inside were copies of bank statements and a handwritten note. The note was not emotional. It was practical, precise, and unmistakably my mother. If anything happens to me, the account under Emily's name remains untouched until she is 25. Elaine knows this. I have documented everything. My name appeared again on the attached documents. Trust accounts. Beneficiary designations. Dates that predated Elaine's involvement in our lives. I checked the current statements later that night. The balances did not match. I did not confront anyone. I returned the envelope exactly where I found it. Then I went back to university and began paying attention. Over the next few years, I learned the language of financial systems. I chose electives that explain trusts, estates, fiduciary duty. I worked part-time at a law office, filing documents and listening more than I spoke. I watched Elaine from a distance when I came home. How she spoke about our finances. How she referred to my future as uncertain. How she praised my independence when it relieved her of obligation. My father aged quickly. He relied on Elaine for everything now. She managed his medications, his calendar, his social commitments. She told people she was protecting him. I began collecting copies. Statements. Emails. Legal filings. I requested records politely, as a curious daughter. Elaine complied, confident in her authority. She believed she had erased the trail. She had not anticipated patience. By the time I was 26, I had everything I needed. Not enough to accuse. Enough to demonstrate. Elaine planned a celebration for my father's 60th birthday. A formal dinner at a private venue. Family, friends, colleagues. Speeches. Toasts. She asked me to say a few words. I agreed. That evening, I stood calmly at the podium. I thanked everyone for coming. I spoke about my mother briefly. Then I spoke about legacy. About trust. About how documents preserve truth when memory fails. I distributed copies of a single page to the tables. Nothing inflammatory. Just a comparison of two statements, side by side. The room grew quiet. Elaine did not speak. She did not need to. The numbers spoke for her. The consequences unfolded slowly, properly. Lawyers became involved. Accounts were frozen. Elaine resigned from boards she once chaired. Friends stopped calling. My father did not defend her. He did not defend me either. He simply signed where he was told again. I moved out within the month. The recovered funds were transferred into the account my mother had protected. I used them carefully. Education. Stability. Distance. Elaine sent me one message. It was brief. Controlled. She said I could have spoken to her privately. She was right. I chose not to. Because some truths are not meant to be whispered. I do not feel victorious. I feel complete. My mother once wrote that patience reveals character more clearly than confrontation. She was right about that too.